At work, my stepmom called and snickered, "I drained your trust fund and gave it to your stepsister." But when my boss overheard the call, he pulled me into his office, and what he said next left me speechless. I had always known my stepmother was selfish. What I didn't know was just how far she was willing to go. It started as an ordinary morning, the kind where nothing feels particularly significant, but carries the weight of routine. I had just gotten into work, set my coffee down on my desk, and opened my laptop when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. My inbox was already full of urgent emails, and I wasn't in the mood for distractions. But then I saw the name on the screen. Monica Ellison. My pulse quickened. I hadn't spoken to her in months, not since my father's passing 2 years ago, really aside from the occasional forced pleasantries during legal meetings. I didn't trust her. I never had, but I had assumed that with my father gone, there was nothing left for her to take from me. I was wrong. I hesitated for just a second before answering. "What do you want?" Her voice was light, almost cheerful. "Well, aren't you a little ray of sunshine, Carter? You always were a little rude, you know. Not like Bianca." I exhaled sharply, already irritated. "Monica, I'm at work. I don't have time for this." She let out a small laugh, the kind that sent a shiver down my spine, because I just knew she was about to say something awful. "Oh, I just thought you should know," she said sweetly, "that I went ahead and emptied out your trust fund this morning." The world around me seemed to pause. I gripped my phone tighter. "What?" "Drained it, every last penny. And I gave it to Bianca." A cold rush of disbelief shot through me. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. Heads turned in the office, but I didn't care. "You're lying." "Oh, sweetheart," she cooed. "I thought you were smarter than this." "Do you really think I'd call you just to lie? Check your account if you want. It's empty. And Bianca is so excited to start her fashion line. Isn't that wonderful?" I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. That money, it wasn't just some excess wealth my father left behind. It was supposed to be my future. It was the safety net he had built for me, the thing that ensured I wouldn't have to struggle like he did before he made his fortune. I had plans for that money. I had counted on it to help with a down payment on a house, to invest to secure a future that wasn't dependent on grinding away in a high-stress job for the rest of my life. And just like that, it was gone. I forced myself to speak, my voice low and dangerous. "You had no right." "Oh, but I did." She was enjoying this. I could hear the amusement in her voice. "Your father left me in charge of the trust, remember? And well, I just didn't see the point in keeping all that money locked up for you when Bianca needed it so much more." I squeezed my eyes shut. My father had been a smart man, but he had always been blind when it came to Monica and Bianca. He wanted to believe in them. He wanted to think that Monica loved him for more than just his money, that Bianca was more than a selfish, entitled brat. And now I was paying the price for his mistakes. I didn't realize I had been gripping my desk until my knuckles turned white. "You're going to regret this." She laughed again. "Oh, Carter, you always were dramatic. You'll be fine. You have that job of yours, don't you? A grown man doesn't need to be clinging to daddy's money anyway." My body was shaking. I was about to say something I probably would have regretted, but then, a voice behind me cleared their throat. I turned, heart hammering in my chest. Nicholas Carter, my boss, was standing in the doorway of his office, watching me with an unreadable expression. My stomach dropped. I had just yelled in the middle of the office. People were definitely staring, and Nicholas had definitely heard more than he should have. I barely had time to hang up before his voice cut through the tension. "Ellison, my office. Now." I swallowed hard. This day was about to get even worse. I followed Nicholas into his office, my legs feeling like lead. He closed the door behind us and gestured to a chair. "Sit." I sat. For a moment, he just studied me, his blue eyes sharp, calculating. I felt like a bug under a microscope. Then, finally, he spoke. "Want to tell me what that was about?" I hesitated. This wasn't something I wanted to talk about, especially not with my boss. But Nicholas was the kind of man who didn't tolerate silence as an answer. So, reluctantly, I told him. I kept my voice steady as I explained everything: how my father had left me a trust fund, how Monica had somehow gained control over it, how she had drained it completely and handed it over to Bianca without a second thought. Nicholas listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. "And you just let her take it?" His words stung. I clenched my fists. What was I supposed to do? "It's gone." A small smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Not necessarily." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Nicholas leaned forward, resting his elbows on his desk. "I know Monica. You what?" He nodded. "She used to be married to my brother. And let's just say, this isn't her first time pulling something like this." I stared at him, my brain struggling to process what he had just said. "Are you telling me she's done this before?" "More than once." His expression darkened, and I think it's about time someone stopped her. I was still reeling when he continued. "Look, I can help you, but if we do this, we do it my way." I hesitated. "Why would you help me?" His smirk returned, but this time there was something almost dangerous about it. "Because I don't like people who think they can steal and get away with it." And just like that, everything changed. I stared at Nicholas, my mind spinning. This was a man I barely knew beyond the professional boundaries of my job. He was my boss, the kind of executive who had a reputation for being ruthless in business, and yet here he was, offering to help me take down my stepmother. A part of me wondered if this was some kind of test. Maybe he wanted to see how I handled adversity, if I would crumble or fight back. But another part of me, the one still shaking with rage over what Monica had done, didn't care. I leaned forward. How? Nicholas's smirk widened. First, we need to find out exactly how she moved the money. If she transferred it directly to Bianca, there might be a way to challenge it. You said she had control over the trust, but did you ever see the exact terms? I felt my stomach twist. No. I assumed my dad locked it down. He gave me a pointed look. Never assume. That's how people like Monica get away with things. I exhaled sharply. He was right. I had trusted my father to make sure Monica wouldn't be able to touch my inheritance, but clearly, she had found a way. Nicholas stood up and grabbed his jacket. Come on. I frowned. Where are we going? To my lawyer. I blinked. You have a lawyer? He gave me an exasperated look. Ellison, do you think I got to where I am without one? I hesitated. I should have been back at my desk, working on the analysis reports that were due by the end of the week. But then I thought about Monica's smug voice in my ear, about the money that was supposed to be mine sitting in Bianca's hands. Screw work. I stood. Let's go. Nicholas's lawyer's office was in a high-rise in downtown Chicago, the kind of place with floor-to-ceiling windows and an overpriced espresso machine in the waiting area. We were ushered into a sleek office where a man in his late 40s, dressed in an impeccable gray suit, stood to greet us. Carter, he said, nodding at Nicholas before turning to me. And you must be the unlucky stepson. I stiffened. Nicholas smirked. Ryan, meet Carter Ellison. He needs your help. I sat down, my hands tightening into fists on my lap. My stepmother emptied my trust fund and gave it to my stepsister. I need to know if there's anything I can do to get it back. Ryan studied me for a moment, then motioned toward Nicholas. And what's your interest in this? Nicholas's expression didn't change. Let's just say, I have some unfinished business with the woman in question. Ryan didn't press further. Instead, he turned back to me. Did your father ever discuss the terms of the trust with you? I shook my head. He told me it was set up to ensure I'd have financial security, but I never saw the actual documents. Ryan sighed and pulled out a legal pad. We'll need to get copies. If Monica had full control, it'll depend on how the terms were written. But if she misused those funds in any way, fraud, misrepresentation, anything shady, we might have a case. Hope flared in my chest. And if we Ryan smiled slightly. Then we make her life a living issue. The next few days were a whirlwind of digging through financial records, requesting legal documents, and trying to piece together exactly how Monica had pulled this off. It turned out that my father had made a critical mistake. When he set up the trust, he had given Monica discretionary control, meaning she could move the money as she saw fit, as long as she could justify it as being in the family's best interest. She had used that loophole to drain the account and claim that the funds were being reallocated to support Bianca's business aspirations. It was infuriatingly legal. But Nicholas wasn't deterred. She might have stayed within the trust rules, he said, but let's see how clean her financials really are. And that was when we found it. A single transaction buried beneath layers of transfers and account movements. That changed everything. Monica hadn't just moved my trust fund into Bianca's name. She had skimmed from it, pulled out a significant chunk, and wired it to a personal account in the Cayman Islands. It was fraud. Nicholas leaned back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. Gotcha. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying everything. The anger, the betrayal, the way Monica had laughed when she told me she had taken my money. The morning we confronted Monica, the air was crisp, a stark contrast to the heat boiling in my chest. Nicholas had arranged everything. We didn't call her. We didn't give her a chance to prepare. We just showed up. Nicholas, Ryan, and I walked into Monica's gated estate, the one my father had paid for, and rang the bell. The housekeeper answered, looking startled at the three of us standing there in our business attire like we had come to deliver a verdict. Tell Monica we need to speak with her, Nicholas said smoothly. We were led into the grand sitting room, where Monica finally appeared, dressed in an elegant silk robe, her blonde hair pinned back in a way that probably took her house staff 30 minutes to perfect. She didn't look surprised to see me, but she did raise an eyebrow at Nicholas. Carter, she said, folding her arms. What an unexpected visit, and you brought company. I didn't waste time. We know what you did. She tilted her head, feigning innocence. You'll have to be more specific, dear. I do many things. Ryan set a folder on the coffee table between us. We have proof that you didn't just transfer the trust fund to Bianca. You took a significant portion and moved it into your own offshore account. Monica's smile flickered. It was barely noticeable, but I caught it. I have no idea what you're talking about, she said smoothly. I followed the terms of the trust perfectly. The money was reassigned to another beneficiary, which I had the legal authority to do. Ryan leaned forward. Perhaps, but I wonder what the courts would think about the funds you siphoned off into your personal account. Last I checked, trustees aren't supposed to profit from the accounts they manage. That's called embezzlement. Monica's fingers twitched slightly where they rested on the armrest of her expensive chaise. This is ridiculous, she said, but her voice wasn't as composed as before. I haven't done anything illegal, Nicholas chuckled, shaking his head. Oh, Monica, you and I both know that's a lie. She turned to him sharply. I don't know what you think you're doing here, Nicholas, but this is none of your concern. He smirked. Oh, but it is. You see, I've had a personal interest in seeing you finally get what you deserve. Her eyes narrowed. Still bitter about my divorce from your brother, I see. Nicholas didn't even flinch. Not bitter, just observant. You keep running the same scam on different families, Monica. The only difference is, this time, you made a mistake. Ryan slid another document toward her. Here's what's gonna happen. You are going to return every cent you took from Carter's trust fund. If you do that, we won't press criminal charges for financial fraud. But if you don't, he let the sentence hang in the air. Monica laughed, but it was hollow. And what if I refuse? Ryan shrugged. Then you'll be in court for the next 5 years, drowning in legal fees while we expose every shady transaction you've made in the last decade. And trust me, we will find them. Her eyes flicked between us, weighing her options. Nicholas smiled at her like a cat watching a mouse struggle in a trap. You might be able to charm your way out of things with weak men, Monica, but Carter isn't weak, and neither am I. For the first time in my life, I saw true panic in Monica's eyes. She wasn't in control anymore. The tables had turned, and she knew it. You have until the end of the day,
Ryan said,
standing. If the money isn't back in Carter's account, we move forward with legal action. Monica stayed seated, gripping the arms of the chaise. I half expected her to scream, to throw something, to call her lawyers, and threaten us. But she didn't, because she knew we had her. As we walked out, Nicholas glanced at me. She'll pay up, and she did. By that evening, every dollar was back in my account. A week later, I received a message from a mutual acquaintance. Monica had quietly left Chicago. Apparently, she had liquidated some assets and disappeared to Florida, where she was trying to start fresh. Bianca's so-called fashion business collapsed before it even started. Turns out, without stolen money funding her, she didn't have the drive to make things work. I never heard from either of them again. One day, I drove past my father's old house, the one Monica had insisted on keeping. A for sale sign stood in the front yard. I sat there for a long time, watching the wind rustle the trees in the yard I used to play in as a kid. Monica had spent years controlling people, manipulating them, taking what wasn't hers, and now she had nothing. It wasn't a dramatic downfall. No courtroom battles, no public humiliation, just a quiet, inevitable collapse. As I pulled away from the house, I realized something. Monica had spent her life chasing power and wealth, but in the end, she had lost the one thing she could never steal back: control.